If you'll give me just a minute, I have to wait until it's working
It tells me it's streaming live.
and then shut off the YouTube. Okay, here we are. Now we're on YouTube. When we first started doing that, I didn't know that you had to shut the YouTube window off or tab off on your browser.
Oh, because it
All of it.
fixes the audio.
Yeah.
I learned that when we were doing that for Carnes. It was yeah, and because I was getting the feedback and I couldn't figure out how to make it stop either.
Yes, and I kept trying to figure out who's not muted, who's doing this, who has two things going. Figured out finally that it was me.
Do you, I know we're on YouTube, but do you need any office supplies for the office? Is there anything you need? If so,
Legal
if you
pads,
email
as
me.
long as we have the short legal pads, it'll be great.
Okay.
Yeah, my background, I started that when we were doing YouTube from the house. Give me just a minute. Okay, I'm back.
I see your family is touring colleges. Are you getting to go any?
I have not. Kate and William went to a wedding in College Station, so I just stayed home. And then I guess when I had court Tuesday, when I was in Pearsall, they went up to Austin. That's where Kate went to undergraduate.
Oh, okay. I like the LBJ Museum a lot. I like to take all my interns there because I think that's just it's really nicely done and it's a good experience.
I haven't been to it in a while. I went to it as an undergraduate, and then I went to it, I guess, when I was running for county attorney. A couple of times they had seminars there, the Republican Party. Always thought that was funny.
Did you register for the annual? Registration's open.
I have not. I need to do that, and I have not. I was just looking at my hours, but I'll probably go ahead and go to it anyway. Was Professor Hoppy still there when you were there, or he had retired?
He was not there.
Okay. He had did they have an interim program or a 3-week program in May?
They did, yes. And so I didn't do it. I did
Or
the
2 week maybe.
Yeah, I did the June one because I took like homestead law and something else because the summer of my first year, I went to Innsbruck with St. Mary's.
Okay. No, I mean as an undergraduate.
Oh, no.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, he'd been a political science professor. When I first went to Texas Lutheran, there was a 2-week, they called it interim, program in January. So you didn't go back to regular school until about the end of January.
Mhm.
And that had been a deal, I guess, back in the 70s. And lots of schools did it, and they stopped being very many schools that did it. So Texas Lutheran finally got rid of it. And they went to a 2-week special program in May.
I've taught it one time and it's terrible to teach because it's so much material in such a short time. Texas Lutheran's having a big problem with their enrollment because we try to have 400 students. And so for the fall, we only have 360 kids.
I've looked at the money there. I mean, I guess we'll make it work if that's where William wants to go. So far, though, he doesn't know what he wants to do. He thinks maybe sports medicine and be a coach or a trainer.
Well, the nice thing about Texas Lutheran is they have so much financial aid, and even people that have higher incomes are still, they do a lot of academic work.
I don't know if he'd want to go there or not want to go there just because I did. He's kind of at that stage as a teenager. But anyhow, what I was going to say is I spent I think the first year when I was a junior, they had that the program in May. Professor Hoppy had a seminar where we drove up to Austin every day to go around at the legislature. And that was very interesting.
I'm enjoying reading the Interesting Times in Austin. That's my news reading of the week.
Okay, we are with the impeachment and
Yes. Yesterday they picked, I don't know if you saw who they picked as their tribal
prosecutor.
counsel. Yes.
No.
Dick DeGuerin and Rusty Hardin.
So why don't they do it themselves? That's the old fashioned way.
So interesting.
It'd be interesting to see them being prosecutors. I heard a story at a seminar one time. Who was the who was the big PI lawyer up in Dallas? He's dead now. This would have been like in the 70s, 80s, 90s. Frank Branscombe? No. Anyhow, they had a oral surgeon, I think, in the Metroplex somewhere, who had 2 or 3 patients die. And of course, there's lawsuits about it. And they dig into the discovery and eventually come to the conclusion that this was not malpractice or negligence or gross negligence. This guy was just taking people out.
Oh my gosh.
Murder. And Frank Branscombe. And the civil attorneys, one, they went to the DA's office, and 2, the insurance companies were like, well, there's no coverage for intentional torts. So it turned into a murder case, but the DA's office decided that they didn't have anybody at the DA's office who knew how to present all of the evidence about anesthesia. And that's, I guess, a very nuanced field, and to be able to show the difference between, just oops and no, this was deliberate. They were afraid they didn't have anybody who knew enough about that. So they got a big PI lawyer to come in, and I think he served, for $1 or something like that to be the special prosecutor.
Oh, wow.
In the murder case, and he got a conviction. Well, I assume other people will show up sooner or later.
I talked to Tom this morning, and he was taking his son to the dentist, but he knew about it and was planning to be there. So
Okay. I was going to say in the background, I think that's a courtroom in Wales or somewhere in the British Isles. I was holding court from the bathroom, the master bathroom in my house when COVID started. So it just didn't look good, having the towel rack behind me.
Yeah, you're like, here's the towel rack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was the place where I could, even if Rusty or the dogs were making noise, it was, I could still have court more or less.
Lynn is laughing because he came by to pick up his robe that was here in the closet, and he was like, oh, you have curtains. Why do you have curtains? And I said they were on sale at Amazon for $5, and I already had the rod. So he was like, I feel like you've really decorated here. I said, it's $5 curtains. It's okay.
Is he still there?
He finished his trial. Well, they haven't done punishment, but they got a guilty yesterday evening. So I guess they're doing punishment. I did run after I went to at the regional that backlog as one of the breakout sessions.
Right.
And I ran the clearance rates for all of the counties, and the Atascosa clearance rate looked fine, because it just lops us together, because that part of 3474 did pass for those 30 most populous counties. They're going to have to keep track of their clearance rates and report it to the lieutenant governor.
Okay.
And so for us,
they start working on that.
In Wilson County, our clearance rate in criminal cases is 114%, 100% in family, and 85.4 in civil. And I think we can fix that with a DWAP docket. And then LaSalle has got a 65% civil clearance rate, 92.9 family, and 109 on criminal cases. And this is through April 30th.
Okay.
And then, but Carnes, I figured out that there's got to be some sort of problem in Carnes with the computer system, because it shows the clearance rate on civil cases as 8%, 27% in family, and 76% in criminal. So we just need to kind of probably update that.
That sounds like we should. Howdy,
Hey,
howdy. Good
everyone.
morning, Judge Hedke. Good morning, Tom.
Good morning.
Morning.
And while we're talking district court stuff, just for a minute, do you want to swap Carnes for Frio and LaSalle as far as DWAP dockets? By that, I mean, it might be easier for you to do those. Just because, I don't know what you're gonna want to do. What I've always done is have them pull the files and go through them. Because there's always some that actually have been dismissed. They just don't reflect that in the computer, and people who are in bankruptcy, and I'll go and check and see, yeah, they're still in bankruptcy. We don't need to put this in the DWAP, things like that. I usually pull the files and go through them. So would it be easier for you to do, Clarence, since you live there?
That's fine. And I think we set the one in Frio already and because Ophelia was going to be at a conference. And so Frio is 8/18. So that's just a Friday. So whichever one of us wants to do Frio.
Okay,
But I don't think we've set the others yet. So yeah, that's perfect.
Judge Whitman ought to be here. I wish it would tell you how many people are watching on YouTube. I never know.
Oh, my secretary said Judge Whitman may not be here. She didn't get a response from him.
Oh,
I'll ask him.
Go for the audit. Well, we went up through to court. They haven't had it. That's why let's put it on there, even though they got the copies. Yeah, I wrote the dates down. I did Wilson County on the 27th of February, and I did here on the 28th.
Do you know he was out of town this week? I called him, he didn't answer, and I've sent a text. So
okay.
I have no idea.
Give him a couple of minutes. I can call his office, I guess.
Let's see what she had said. Oh, he sounds like he's out of town.
Okay, I'm sorry.
It sounds like he's out of town. That's what his secretary emailed.
All right, I just, I called the office and didn't get an answer there either. All right, then I will call the meeting of the Carnes and Wilson juvenile boards together. We have two judges in one county, all three in the other, so we have a quorum. Any public comments? There being none of those, is there people had a chance to review the minutes from the last time?
I wasn't here for the last meeting, so.
Okay. I guess I was the only one who was here for the last meeting. Okay, all right then, I will make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from the December 27th, 2022 meeting.
second.
All in favor, say aye.
All right.
All right, it's unanimous. All right, approved, it just popped up there, okay. Approve, disapprove interlocal cooperation agreement for the shared person. That is with the Floresville ISD.
I so move.
Okay, any discussion about this? Let me ask, Ms. Pardon, is there any significant changes from the previous
No, Your Honor, it's the same agreement that we had from last year.
Okay. All right then. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All right, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
It's unanimous. All right, now approve, disapprove the MOUs with a number of school districts: Kennedy, Karn City, Fall City, Poth, Forestville, Lavernia, Stockdale. I noticed that some of them are considerably longer than others. Some are a few pages, like 6 pages, and some are like 13 pages. Why was that?
They should all be the same. There may be some blank pages in the, but they're all, they should each be 13 pages long. Yeah, the copies that I have here are each 13 pages long.
All right.
I can definitely resend them to you. Yeah, they're each the same. They're the same copies they're the same thing from last year, and they're each the same thing. The only thing that's different in each MOU would be the name of the school district in there, and then the signature page would be the actual board trustee from the school, that school
All right,
district.
let me go back to my email. The Stockdale and Lavernia only have 6 pages. They just end after 6 pages. Let me go back and download them again.
Okay.
Okay, and here's 13 pages for Lavernia. And for Stockdale, okay. So are there any significant changes to these?
No, sir, they're the same thing. They're all
Exactly.
the same.
All right, discussion about them? All right, is there a motion to approve them then?
I just had one other question.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
And Melissa, you reached out and verified Runge is not opting in,
They're not opting in.
and they're going to continue to use Nixon.
They're using Nixon, that's correct.
And is this enough schools to make this viable?
That's a conversation that I've had with our staff. That's something that we can definitely talk about. We have had low numbers. It's totally up to what we want to continue to pursue in the future. We've got the numbers, we're working on budget. I mean, it's definitely something that we can discuss. Numbers have been very low. Our numbers have been increasing though, as far as actual referrals to our department. And in the past, the last semester of the school year, our referrals at the JJ have gone up. So my hope is that they will continue to increase. I would love to see how the first semester goes. As far as numbers for the JJ, my hope is that they increase as well. I do feel like we're honestly still suffering from the COVID pandemic, but as far as referrals to the department and referrals to JJ, they are increasing. So my hope is that, we can reevaluate this at semester and have this discussion again.
And we still have some grant funding that the JJ receives, correct?
Yes, ma'am. We do receive state grant funding, and we do receive a portion of the teacher salary from FISD. So that's a big portion of the funding for the program.
And the schools are still paying for seats to be available. So even if they're not being used, we have some income.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I mean, it's a good problem to have, but we've got to have this program somewhere, whether we're hiring somebody else to do it. I don't know where we would send our kids if we didn't have it here locally.
Exactly. And that's the alternative. The alternative would be that we would be sending kids to the street, actually. So,
Yeah, that's not.
yeah.
When I was first county attorney, they had an educational component was an after-school program that lasted about 3.5 to 4 hours a night. And I think that was in some ways sort of an incentive to misbehave because, the kids got to say, oh, I go to night school, and they could, sleep until 4 o'clock in the afternoon and go run around after school and cause mayhem. I think it's a lot better to say, oh, I don't get to be in regular school and I've got to be there all the same hours everybody else is.
Exactly.
I agree, Judge Wilson.
Any other discussion?
Move to approve items 2A through G.
All right. I'll second that. All in favor, aye?
All right,
Thank you.
Unanimous. All right, approve, disapprove the designation of offices.
Okay, so what I brought this to you for is because the city of Karn City purchased a new building and they have moved their offices to a new location. That new location is at 1007 North Highway 123. So they've moved their police department and their municipal court into the new building. So we've asked to change the address of the police department and the municipal court to their new address. And I've made those changes on the list. That would be letter I and letter V. And then Karn City ISD has employed some new school resource officers, and they've asked to go ahead and add those offices to the list as well. And that's letter W. So this is for the addition of letter W, and we are amending letters I and V to include the new address for the city of Karn City.
Okay, any discussion?
I'll move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye? Aye,
Aye.
it's unanimous. All right. And then review the independent audit.
Okay, judges, good morning. So I believe Judge Wilson, I gave you a copy of yours when you were on the bench, Judge Dillingham.
Yeah.
I never got a chance to get hers. It's sitting on her desk now per our discussion this morning. So basically, TJJ, we did not have an audit in 20.
And Tom, this is the 21-page report that's in our email.
Yes, it's in there. I'm sorry, Judge.
Okay, yeah, I've reviewed it. Okay,
So we did not have an audit fiscal year 21. We're allowed to get a waiver every couple of years. Is that right, Melissa? So we brought new auditors into Karnes County. So nothing got looked at in 21. Well, the new auditors had to do 22, which is Armstrong and Vaughn out of Universal City. They also do Wilson County. And the only finding they had, which I was not aware of, the money we get from TJJD needs to be in an interest-bearing account. So I have set up an account with Texas Class to work with the state to get that money diverted there. We'd be moving the money back and forth. So that's the only finding. It won't be a lot of interest, but at least that way we're in compliance with what the grant calls for.
and
So-
Tom, that had a target completion date of February 28th. Has that already been done?
No, it has not been done, but that's how they presented their report. Yeah, because that was, the audit report was done on the 27th, and they knew it couldn't get done within one day.
I just didn't know if it had been done since that time, since that had been 2 months down the road.
Right, so I'm assuming it should, the account set up, I'm just getting the state to move the monies into, we moved the account, set up the account right away. I had that done back in the first part of March. It's just working with the state to get the direct deposit redirected. So that will all be done. I mean, I'll get back with the state again next week and find out where we are on that, because it's just paperwork to get that diverted. So that money will be going into that pool, and then that pool I will transfer to the county fund so that the county can use it. And the three different sources of monies that we get from TJJD, like in 22, we got 497,806 for the main programs. For the, and correct me, Melissa, if I'm, the community program, that's a small amount we get. That's reimbursements, right, for $3,832. Refresh me with this, because it says TJJG R and N, state aid.
That's the risk and needs. That's for our risk and needs assessment. Yes, that's our tool.
Right, and then the other item is grant W, which is $50,000, which is
That's
program.
our JJ. Yes, sir.
Right, so judges, yes, so I did present both these audits to both our counties. We did Wilson County on the 27th of February, and I did Karnes County on the 28th of February. So they got the same reports that y'all are looking at right now.
Okay, and is this a locally controlled account and then the interest gets kicked up to Austin, or how does that work?
Yeah, we get to keep that interest, that little bit of interest that we'll be earning on it, Judge, because we're gonna be getting that money in, but we're gonna be funding it back to Karnes to pay all their salaries and so forth. So I don't see it having a large amount, but at least that way we're in compliance with what they're requiring. And I'm not sure, previous auditors never picked up on the fact that we needed it to be interest bearing.
All right, well, and that's I guess interest rates are going up.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
They were so trivial for so long that it was de minimis.
Right, and usually we receive somewhere, $50,000 a month from the state. So even that little bit of money we're gonna get,
What's Texas class paying right now?
I can't honestly say, I'd have to look.
This is like 2.9.
Yes,
3%.
right.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're looking at close to 5% now in interest and all that.
I was involved with a charter school that got deemed by the Texas Department of Education because they weren't putting their money in an interest-bearing account. And they said that we're going to assume that they use whatever federal rate there was, that you would have been able to get at least that much if you'd gone out and found an interest-bearing account. And I was able to show the Department of Education that it would have been less than like $120 a year or something like that. But they would have had to have, formed the committee to do the investments and adopted policies and things. And I got them to decide, yeah, it would cost the school more money to comply with this because the interest rates were so low than they would get from the interest. So they took the ding off, but that probably wouldn't happen these days with the interest going up.
So Judge Dillingham, yes, that account is set up right now. It's a matter of getting the state to redirect our funds from our county bank account to that one, and then we can move them back as needed for paying what we need to pay.
Awesome. Now, I also know previously with the prior auditor, there was like a fee that the budget had out of the juvenile board that paid like additional compensation to the auditor. And so is that something that needed to be added back into your salary at the county because we weren't doing that as the board anymore, or how did that work itself?
We took that out. Judge Jackson, Judge Hurley, Judge Wilson, and myself. When Tom came on, he waived that.
Well, should we? And I can't remember the issue. Was the issue that he couldn't be compensated from our funds and had to be the county, or was it the other way around? Or
If I remember right, it was like $2,800 or something. That was in addition to Tom's salary, but because it wasn't being taken care of with the prior auditor, I think Judge Ellison made a motion to say, hey, let's halt that. And Tom was in agreement. It would be in the minutes from a couple of years ago.
And my understanding, the way it all came about was there was a previous company or someone did these grants, and then I guess the previous auditor took over the responsibility of doing the financial reporting.
Right.
Right.
That's
And I think the issue was the board, before Judge Heckey was here, wasn't aware this was going on. So that's kind of what happened. It was being paid, no one was aware.
and I don't know if that's something that typically would be the bailiwick of the county auditor, or typically the juvenile board would go out and hire somebody.
I'm not sure. I've talked to other county auditors that do the financial like I do for the two counties here. Some do get it, some don't, but it's the board's decision what they want.
So that could be a salary adjustment on general salary, or it could be a stipend either way.
Correct.
Okay.
And actually, it was also being paid to Michelle, a small amount.
I think you're right.
Yeah, for doing the bills.
I think you're
Yeah, there
right.
was also judges, there was also a small amount being paid to the first assistant auditor's office for paying the weekly bills for juvenile.
So maybe as y'all are doing your budget hearings, if we'll just put a note that Judge Wilson and I revisit that, just if that's a conversation we need to have in your ordinary salary.
And we just kind of remade that a regular step in my office to paying other bills.
Yeah.
It's not directly related to anyone right now on juvenile bills. There's not a lot of juvenile bills.
I don't have a problem with the auditor's office receiving a stipend. If we decide to do so, I want it broken out. I don't want it included in a general salary. So for transparency.
Yes. All right. Anything else? Any future agenda items?
Just if you want to revisit that, Judge Wilson, a stipend for.
Okay, yeah, I mean, excellent. Yes, put that down.
And
Any
we're
other-
going to start working on our budget on our end as well.
Okay. All right. I will sign all of everything, and The MOUs, they haven't been signed by the county judges also, so I guess, Ms. Pardon, I'll just return these to you and you can get them to
Yes,
the
sir.
county judges for signature.
Yes, sir.
All right, okay.
Hey,
Anything
Judge,
else?
I want to ask one other thing. Melissa called me before I got here this morning. And historically, Judge Wilson probably knows, the juvenile department got the used vehicles from Wilson County when the sheriff's department were able to retire. So they use those to go back and forth. And apparently, and right now they got one of the previous vehicles, which I think was Judge Queenie's old vehicle, and then also one of the sheriff's vehicles. They're spending a lot of money because those vehicles are not worthy. And I suggested to Melissa, this might be an agenda item since we can't discuss it. Maybe I and her visit with Judge Whitman and also possibly Sheriff Stewart to see if they have any extra vehicles. But I understand in Carnes, we don't have extra vehicles. The sheriff sells them where they're so ragged out, it's not worth putting them on the road. Would y'all be open if we discuss, or if y'all want to talk about it on the agenda next time to possibly get them some vehicles? They need vehicles. And Melissa, you can hone in, because you said y'all are doing a lot of driving between here and Floresville, correct?
We're driving between both counties a lot. We've received so many referrals in Floresville that I myself and our other probation officer are even just helping out with intakes just to help them catch up. So a lot of the mileage right now is spent just going over there and assisting and getting the intakes and bringing them in initially and just and doing that initial paperwork. It's eating up a lot of our budget. And so if we had a department vehicle, we could coordinate just a certain day that all of us could get in the car and drive over there. We do have an older vehicle that Sheriff Villanueva did hand down to us, but poor thing, it's on its last leg at this point, and it's not very reliable. But if we could discuss it and just figure out, where we go from here as far as maybe getting our own or asking for someone to pass something down to us, we would really appreciate that.
Tom, could you also look at buy board and just see what it cost us to buy two smaller, like not like a Tahoe, but like maybe two smaller SUVs through buy board? And then that way we can see, hey, this is what a new one cost, and then see if they have anything to give away. But I think it takes a long time to get some of those vehicles in stock.
Yes, Judge, I can do that. Also, I can look into surplus in Austin. We bought 2 vehicles for the constables in Wilson County at the DPS surplus. So that might be an option as well.
Have you had good luck with DPS surplus?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Have you had good luck with them? Have you had good luck with them?
Oh, boy, yeah, because that's where Judge Constable Talley's vehicle came from there, and I think Fowler's did too, both of those.
Okay, I just asked that because, I mean, I'm not a cop, but I've done a few ride-alongs. And in my experience, they're pretty rough on them. I mean, they slam on the brakes and turn around across the divided highway, bouncing up and down through the grass and the gophers, and then slam the gas down to catch up. They're, in my experience, a lot rougher on them than most of your city police or sheriff's department.
Curtis, and find out if they've had issues with them since they got them.
And if they work, that's great, but they're pretty tough on them. All right, so we can put that on the agenda too. Anything else?
I'm good.
All right, so is there a
Thank
motion
you.
to adjourn?
No moved.
Second, Judge.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
It's unanimous. All right. Y'all have a good weekend.
Thank
Thank
you.